Hello YouTube, we are back with another one today. Welcome back to the Reality Check YouTube channel. And today we are going to cover part 5 of the Twitter files. They dropped yesterday, and there's some more. The rest of the story is pretty much told in this iteration. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. This thread is titled The Twitter Files Part 5, The Removal of Trump from Twitter. This one again is being reported by @Barry Weiss on Twitter. And for anybody asking, Barry Weiss and all these guys that have been reporting this stuff are these stories are intentionally being given to more left-leaning political commentators, right? With the intent of not seeming biased, so that hopefully more people will actually listen to it. But carrying on. Number one, on the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. Number two, at 6:46 a.m., the 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. All right, that's the first tweet. And then he tweeted again at 7:44 a.m. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Okay. For years, Twitter had resisted calls, both internal and external, to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information that people should be able to see and debate. Can't agree more. That sounds pretty common sense to me. We don't have the ability to dialogue. We don't have any ability to petition our government for redresses, right? Our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage with their leaders directly, the company wrote in 2019. Twitter's aim was to protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them accountable. That's their policy, right? 6. But after January 6th, as Matt Taibbi and Mr. Schellenberger here, Michael Schellenberger, have documented, pressure grew both inside and outside of Twitter to ban Trump. Number 7, there were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I'm from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. You could understand why somebody from China would be against censorship. If you haven't been kind of paying attention to what's going on over there, they are going through some crazy crap with CCP, to where they have full social credit score implementation, which is one of the things that they're looking at putting in place here. Basically, to where if you don't go along with the official narrative or the Ministry of Truth, whatever little crap they come up with, right? They basically want to debank you, right? Okay, that's the one we just read from Thursday, January 7th, right? On Thursday, January 7th, at 10:20, right? It says, I understand this fear, but I also think it's important to understand that censorship by a government is very different than censorship of the government. The First Amendment in the United States and similar legislation in other countries with similar concepts exists specifically to prevent the government from silencing the people. I respect that, but realistically, we impose far stricter rules on effectively everybody on the platform, was the response to that. Now here again, we don't know who's who because they've got it redacted. But the conversation goes on. It says, we started labeling / restricting his tweets when they became a threat to democracy. Where have we heard that only a million freaking times? Trump, this is an existential threat to our democracy. The Mockingbird media repeated it verbatim. You guys have probably seen the meme videos going around. This is a threat to our democracy. This is a threat to our democracy. Brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Pfizer, right? Those type of echo chamber memes floating around the internet. It seemed like that was our red line yesterday. He clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system of government and showed no signs of remorse. If this is not a clear reason to suspend him again as an unhinged ruler attempting to subvert the most powerful democracy in the world, I'm not sure what would be. Shrug, right? The most powerful democracy in the world. The United States is not a democracy. We have a democratic system. That is correct. We are a constitutional republic as per the founding, right? They keep trying to they have this consistent thing of doing this thing where they conflate the meaning of words, right? And I'll go into that a little bit more in detail after we get through these posts, but it's kind of like I was going about yesterday with the guy with the whole fascism argument, right? They are trying to conflate the meaning of these words. They're trying to give the word fascism a completely negative context. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend fascism because that's a non-starter, right? The idea is that anybody that they want to label anybody that is that wants to take care of their immediate country, right? They wants to put those people first, like they were elected to do. They want to label them as fascist, and that's just simply not the case, right? There's a difference between being a fascist authoritarian versus a fascist, which is, in reality means a nationalist, right? They conflate the words fascist and nationalist. And basically, what they're trying to do is create a negative context, because as soon as you say fascist, everybody's mind automatically goes to, oh, it's Hitler. It's definitely Hitler, right? Well, just having pride in a person's country and trying to put your people first does not make you fundamentally fascist. It means that you're trying to take care of the people that have elected you. So they're trying to play a little word games here to try to twist people's way of thinking about it. Okay, it says, but voices like that one appear to have been a distinct minority within the company. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. And their Slack channels that's basically back channels. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There's a lot of employee advocacy happening, said one Twitter employee. Zoom in here where I can see this here. It says, this is again heavily redacted as far as who's who, right? It says, I'm still struggling to understand the decision not to ban Trump altogether, given he's inciting people to violence that has led to people being killed. Okay, that's a lie right off the bat. Nobody was killed. They keep running that lie too. That there was a guy that was killed or a police officer that was killed in the January 6th protest by protesters. That's not the case. That's a flat out lie. There was a guy that died of a heart attack, and then there was an Air Force veteran that was shot unarmed for trespassing, essentially. And what I would attribute to will be the right terminology, an unnecessary escalation of force. All right. And I think and it goes on to continue, it says, I think we owe people an explanation externally. It says, Wednesday, January 6, 2021, this is the elephant in the room. It feels like Twitter policy is engaging with someone acting in bad faith, and we won't acknowledge it. Do we have any belief that Trump will stop tweeting incitements to violence? I'd love to see somebody in the comments down below, if you know of any tweet or any statement he's made that was an incitement to violence, show me, because I haven't seen it. It says, if Alex Jones was shut down for get your battle rifles, he's far exceeded that standard. I don't remember Trump ever saying anything about grabbing battle rifles and going and doing something stupid. It says, I think a lot of employees must share these concerns. Is there any sort of channel or group where we can organize more action? Activist. That sounds like an activist speaking, doesn't it? There's a lot of employee advocacy happening, both here and in wherever the hell this little link goes to. It says, I understand he was our president and that he may have been the reason why we were hesitant to do it, but I think come January 20th, there's absolutely no excuse why his account shouldn't be suspended for good. I have friends with and 1K followers that blah something about they're touting their followers or some crazy crap. Number 10. We have to do the right thing and ban this account, said one staffer. It's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules, another said. And I'm not going to go through all this mess. It's more gobbledygook, but it's kind of pointless, but okay, I'll go through it anyway. Last sentence, we have to do the right thing here and ban this account. That last sentence, we have to do the right thing and ban this account. That last sentence, we have to do the right thing and ban this account, right? Repeat and repeat, we're in a boat up here, okay? Friday, January 8th, the response was, we don't have a good track record of acting on his account except in the clearest and most explicit cases, and even then. It says, oh, down here, IMO, in my opinion, which is what IMO means for anybody that doesn't know, extraordinary circumstances demand extraordinary leadership. So down here, it took 3 years, but I've lost faith. And it goes on down here, it says, actual votes, Donald Trump, Republican Party, 232, 46.9%, 74,223,744 votes, right? The quote unquote actual result, election results. Second, it's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement while not violating the rules. Okay, this is going to become relevant later. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightly named insurrection. So they're carrying. You got 300 Twitter activists pretending to be employees, which I'm sure 90% of those have been fired already by Elon because they really weren't doing anything but advocacy, claiming that Twitter was complicit in what FJB over here has termed insurrection. Another way they cast their spells, right? If that thing on January 6th was an insurrection, it was the worst planned insurrection that I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think you can take over the federal government with a bunch of flags and MAGA hats. I don't think that's how that works. You would think if somebody was trying to overthrow the seat of government, they would at least be smart enough to take a sidearm. I'll leave it at that. What happened to most of these guys is they were tricked into trespassing and incited by alleged agent provocateurs in the crowd. Now, does that excuse what they did? If anybody, don't get me wrong, anybody that went in there and actually broke into the place, was breaking out windows and tearing stuff up and being in restricted areas, that's illegal. You're trespassing. But for the people that the doors were opened up wide for them and they just walked right in, they didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. If the barriers were down and they didn't cross any barriers and the doors were left wide open for them, they didn't do anything wrong because it's a public building. It's public property. The federal government doesn't own property. It doesn't belong to the federal government. It belongs to the people. It's public property. And that's how the law works. 12. But then the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. Keynote, had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. 13. It's pretty clear he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the terrorists. We can call them that, right? From Wednesday. So they want to call the American patriots terrorists. That's what I'm gaining from that. I'm not reading that mess. This is going to take too long. If you want to go back through and read through all these little communications, to me it's kind of pointless because you don't know who's talking to who. It's just a more anonymous, redacted crap. This is like something coming out of the government. But I know they're doing it because they don't want to be sued for defamation. That's the only reason they're doing a lot of this mess. I also am not seeing clear or coded incitement in the DJT tweet, wrote Anikta Navaroli, a Twitter policy official. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no violation. That's what the vios means, no violations for the DJT one. All right. So there's one person saying that I'm not seeing it, but you've got another 300 activists that are sitting there crying to Jack and annoying the crap out of him, and he doesn't have the balls to just fire the people, right? Because he doesn't want to take the flak for it. So that's where Elon comes into the equation, and that's why those two have kind of been seeing eye to eye because basically Elon's in there trying to clean up the mess that Jack made. Okay. We're at 16 here. She does just that. As an FYI, or CYA basically, as an FYI, safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined that there is no violation of our policies at this time. Okay, this is Anikta Navaroli, all right. 17. Later, Navaroli would testify to the House January 6th committee. For months, I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that, if nothing, We made no intervention into what I saw occurring. People were going to die. So she's saying one thing in these back channels and saying another thing in front of Congress. So she lied under oath. There's another one that needs to be brought in to testify. Right there. Bingo. Why did you lie under oath? Why are your statements here in the back channels completely different from what your public statements are, right? That's kind of the point of most of this crap, is to see who the liars are in this whole mix. Or who's just trying to CYA, cover their butts, right? Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. Tweet is also not in violation. They are unequivocal. It is a clear no violation. It's just to say he's not attending the inauguration. Okay? That's evidently a clear and present danger to their democracy that he's not going to the inauguration. I don't blame him, because I don't believe he lost fairly either. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including in Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. Number 20. In June 2008, Iran's Ayatollah Al Khamenei tweeted, "Israel is a malignant, cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible, and it will happen." Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. So here you have the leader of Iran, right, basically saying death to Israel on their platform, and that's perfectly okay, and that's not an incitement to violence that's worthy of a ban. But what they're trying to twist to what Trump did was somehow a violation of their terms of service, and they lied. They just flat out lied. 21. In October 2020, the former Malaysian Prime Minister said it was a right for Muslims to kill millions of French people. Twitter deleted his tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. The tweet below was taken from the Wayback Machine, right? For those of you that don't know, the internet's forever. So this is a good opportunity for me to kind of highlight this right here. Anything you post online, it's there forever. There's a program online here. It's called the Wayback Machine, right? You can go on there, and it's an internet archive. So anything that you've ever posted, you've ever allowed your kids to post, any websites you've ever visited, any dirty pictures you ever looked up online, it's all there. It's all there. The intelligence agencies have access to all this mess, and so do civilians. And a lot of people have been using this to pull up the dirt on these politicians for what they've said in the past. And you can do that yourself. Just do a quick Google search, you'll find it. But here's the actual tweet, right? And that was the Malaysian Prime Minister, right? And it's just, the hypocrisy is not lost on me. I'm sure it's not on most of you listening either. But number 22, Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria. I know I butchered that one. Sorry in advance. We'll see we'll see what this guy has to say. I may not be sorry at all. President of Nigeria incited violence against pro-Biafra groups. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in the language they understand. Twitter deleted but didn't ban Buhari, right? So these last two, they deleted the tweets, right? But they didn't bother banning these guys when they called for actual incitements to violence, which is not protected speech. That's not even legal. It's not even legal to publish that kind of crap online. It's no different, but that didn't stop Twitter from putting kiddie porn up on there and every damn thing else. 23. In October 2021, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to call on citizens to take up arms against the Tigray region. Twitter allowed the tweet to remain up and did not ban the Prime Minister. This tweet violated Twitter rules about being favored. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. See, and they even admitted this tweet violated the Twitter rules about abusive behavior, right? But they allowed it to stay up anyhow. So the whole, if it wasn't for double standards, these people would have no standards at all. And that seems to be a consistent thing with these Democrat activists. 24. In early February 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government threatened to arrest Twitter employees in India and to incarcerate them for up to 7 years after they restored hundreds of accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban Modi. So they're threatening him with arrest because they banned him off the damn social media platform, right? It's just absurd at this point. Number 25, but Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said that Trump had not incited violence, not even in a coded way. Now, this is a key word here too, coded way, right? It's just like I was talking about with the whole fascist argument, right? They try to use that as a false pretense to try to label people. That's basically what they're doing with all this crap. They think they can read between the lines, and this whole coded thing is nothing but a dog whistle. In other words, it's well, we know what you're saying, even though you're not saying it. It's like they think they're mind readers or something, right? 26. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter's policy, here's that name again, Vijaya Gotti, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could, in fact, be coded incitement to further violence. Coded. In other words, she can read his mind and know exactly what he's saying, even though the words themselves are not a violation, and they have said that they're not a violation of their terms of service, right? But here comes this damn lawyer again, this crooked ass lawyer, to try to twist the policy again. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy. If you interpret the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You can't make this crap up. I mean, these people are just grasping for straws, like grasping hard. 28. Things escalate from there. Members of that team came to view him as the leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence, deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. This is the exact same thing I was talking about in the last video. They try to use the fascist argument to try to label anything related to Trump or anything that is considered a nationalist movement or an America First movement, so with the intent to restore unity to the country and a national national common thread, right? They see that as akin to Hitler. Hitler's evil. Don't shit yourself. We all know history on Hitler. He was an evil piece of shit, right? But to try to conflate the two it's just political mudslinging is all the hell it really is. Number 29. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gotti answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Oh, poor your employees are angry. Maybe you should probably fire them. They don't want to get in line and do what the hell they're freaking supposed to do for whatever the hell you're paying them to do, which is evidently just to be advocates, political advocates. Number 30. Multiple tweets, tweets meaning Twitter employees, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting, listen, this is just a little hyperbolic, the banality of evil. Ooh. Suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis. See, told you what they do. They go straight from fascists to try to point, oh, you're a Nazi. Following orders, relays Yoel Roth to a colleague. There's that little snake again, Yoel Roth, right? But let's kind of look at this one here and just see what he's actually saying. This is Yoel Roth, right? He says, yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Candidly, not a lot of people who are close to the decisions would feel safe enough engaging there. Multiple tweets have quoted the banality of evil. So just the people in just what we just read, right? People are angry and want to express themselves, but the way the conversation happens can close off meaningful engagement. All right, it's projection. What they do with the words like the fascist word, calling people Nazis, it's all projection. The real authoritarians are the people doing this crap. The authoritarians are the people that censor you. Authoritarians are the people that say I'm going to put a mandate on you. You have to do this, or you can't participate in society. You have to do this because it's a mandate. It's not a law. It's a mandate. You must follow it. That's what tyrants do. That's what fascism truly is. That's what not really even fascism. That's what communism is. It's full blown It's not fascism. It's full blown communism. Is what these people are putting out. That's by their actions. And I think that's the end of that thread. Let's go back here and see what else I picked out. This is kind of an unusual one. I want you guys to kind of take a look at it real quick that I saw this morning. Get down, dog. And I'll play here. Well, this guy's, well, they're already looking kind of suspect, ain't they?
A problem and a threat to our democracy,
This is,
Mr. Ward.
Democratic Representative Nancy
Mr.
Mace
Siegel.
and
Yes.
Ms.
questioning these guys.
Carballo.
Yes.
Ms. Nomani.
Yes.
Ms. Tyler.
Yes.
Another question I have, do you believe that rhetoric targeting officials with violence for carrying out their constitutional duties is a threat to democracy, Mr. Ward? Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Only a few weeks after the attempted attack on a Supreme Court justice on June 25th, one of the witnesses, Alejandra Caraballo, tweeted out the following in response to a decision on abortion overturning Roe v. Wade, and I'll quote directly from the tweet: "The 6 justices who overturned Roe should never know peace again. It is our civic duty to accost them every time they're in public. They are pariahs. Since women don't have their rights, these justices should never have a peaceful moment in public again." I know something about being accosted. The night of January 5th, I was physically accosted on the streets of D.C. in Navy Yard by a constituent of mine.
Keyword, by a constituent of hers, a Democratic constituent. There wasn't no ultra MAGA freaking Republican out there in her face trying to accost and harass her. These are their own people, just like they did. Why do you think Kristen Sinema just went independent? Because of the same crap with them following her in the bathroom and trying to pull the same violent advocacy to get their way. These people want to act like children and think that these people are going to represent them forever. They're imploding on themselves, and it's actually kind of a nice thing to watch.
I fervently blamed rhetoric on social media, rhetoric at public events, for being physically accosted. I carry a gun everywhere I go when I am in my district and I'm at home, because I know personally that rhetoric has consequences. I've had my car keyed. I've had my house spray painted. I had someone trespass in my house as recently.
And here's the thing. They're going to go through all this thing here. There will be no criminal referral because this is a Democrat, right? What this lady posted here is not protected speech. It's a call to violence. That's where the line's at. You don't have the right to threaten somebody. That's they always go with the damn straw man. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can too if there's a fire. Where the real line is you cannot threaten somebody publicly and think that you're not going to reap consequences for that. That's not legal speech. That's the line. You're not allowed to threaten other people.
As August, I've been doxxed on social media about where I live. And I've had to add to security everywhere I go. Often, because I can't afford it, I have to carry my own firearm wherever I go. And Alejandra Caraballo also recently tweeted on November 19th, not even a month ago, that the Supreme Court, vested with the judicial power of the United States by our Constitution, stated they are not a legitimate court issuing decisions. And also the Supreme Court is an organ of the far right. So my last question today of Ms. Caraballo: do you stand by these comments, this kind of rhetoric on social media, and do you believe it's a threat to democracy?
Statement she's got right there, I kind of actually agree with a little bit of that, not in the same way she's trying to say it. But I've always wondered, we've always been told growing up, right, when we learned about civics, that we have three co-equal branches of government, right? The judicial, the legislative, and the executive, right? The executive being the president, the legislative being the House and Senate, and the judicial being the courts, right? So how are they? Somebody explain to me in the comments, if you're more of a dang constitutional scholar than I am, is all that just a bunch of bullcrap? Because in my mind, if these judges on the Supreme Court and the federal courts and everywhere except for the state courts, right? The state courts, we actually get to elect them. They get put on the ballot, right? These other courts that have more authority over the state courts, we don't elect any of them. They're all voted in by these elected bureaucrats, right? So how's that co-equal? If you've got any answer, I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Representative, for the opportunity to clarify and provide context to my tweets.
I have a question. Is it yes or no? Do you believe your rhetoric is a threat to democracy when you're calling to accost a branch of government, the Supreme Court?
I don't believe that's a correct characterization
What
of
you
my
tweeted,
statements.
though. Did you not
That's
tweet
exactly
that?
what she said.
But you thought that the Supreme Court justices should be accosted.
What I'm
you
saying
tweet
is
that,
that
yes or
that is
no?
not an
Did you tweet
accurate characterization of my statements.
On June 8th of this year, a man was arrested near Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home in Maryland. He told law enforcement officers he wanted to kill a Supreme Court justice. He was found with a knife, with a pistol, 2 magazines, ammunition, pepper spray, zip ties, a hammer, crowbar, and duct tape.
Ms. Caraballo, on page 12 and 13 of your written testimony, you painted concerned parents as having been infiltrated by white nationalists and far-right militia groups, which played a significant role in school board protests. This has not actually been my experience with concerned parents. In your testimony, you wrote that in Loudoun County, Virginia, unfounded rumors that spread in local parent groups on Facebook about an alleged trans student sexually assaulting a girl in a bathroom led to a firestorm of several heated school board protests that descended into violence. But in fact, the perpetrator, it actually turned out, had committed 2 sexual assaults at 2 different Loudoun County schools in 2021 and was arrested on October 7th, 2021 by the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. These weren't unfounded rumors, as you suggest. It actually turns out law enforcement had to act because a sexual assault occurred. So giving this, I'm assuming that until now you were unaware of what happened here, and you're going to update your testimony for the committee. Is that correct?
Is rhetoric?
Okay, here's kind of the problem I kind of had after watching this the first time around. Is you've got Miss Mace here is a Democrat, and you got the other the black gentleman there that's a Republican, right? And they both seem to be on the same page, but they seem to be missing the issue. But all these people had the ability to reform Section 230 or to get ahead of this years ago. But now that they've allowed this crap to go on for so long, to the point where people are being incited to violence, now they want to make it an issue. The issue is these people didn't do their jobs when they had the opportunity to do it, and now we're reaping the results of crazy people being incited into doing stupid crap, right? So the thing is, it seems like these government officials don't realize the rhetoric that they've allowed to go forward through their propaganda machines has caused a lot of this incitement. But they want to say that the people that are being incited and therefore repeating their opinions and the ways they're incited are worse than the people that are actually causing the incitement in the first place. In my humble opinion, it's not to cover for the actions of these are all adults. They if they do stupid stuff, they reap what they sow. But it just seems to me like it's a deflection in a sense. And for those of you who don't know, that was from Mr. Andy Ngo. Andy Ngo kind of came to notoriety for being assaulted by Antifa, right? And he's a guy, if you don't remember, had the milkshake thrown all over him and everything else, and got assaulted in the street because he was doing journalism trying to cover what Antifa was pulling during the summer of love back in 2020. Somebody got blocked because they don't want to hear what they're saying. Oh, that's the wrong thread. Get back here. Stuck in the thread. There's another story here. There's another one. We were talking earlier, right, about them changing the meanings of words, just like we were talking yesterday with the whole fascism argument, right? This is from the Hodge twins, the conservative twins on YouTube. If you guys don't follow them, they're cut ups. They're pretty hilarious. It says changing the definition of a woman, and the first 2 examples of a woman are actually talking about biological men, right? This is Cambridge Dictionary just dropped a new definition of woman. So let's look at that and see what it is. It says an adult who lives and identifies as a female, though they may have been said to have had a different sex at birth. Example, she was the first trans woman elected to a national office. Mary is a woman who was assigned male at birth, right? More spell casting is what this crap is. It's satanic spell casting. If you don't know how that whole system works, unless you got good constitution about you, I'd say don't even look into it. But it's basically what it is. They're trying to change the meanings of words, just like they did with the old shot thing, where it went from mRNA to a traditional, right? And they just decided to lump them into the same thing, even though the guy that invented the dang thing was calling it out at the time, and he just got reinstated on Twitter, right? The doctor that was calling all that mess out. And you got the press secretary here. I'm not going to get into her. Everybody knows that if her mouth's flapping, she's lying. Basically going after Elon because he's calling for prosecution of Fauci, which, in my opinion, there needs to be a damn good investigation, because we know just from open source material that he was full of it. Here's another one that kind of connects that, right? This is flu cases from during the pandemic, right? The 20 to 21 flu season. You had 1,822 confirmed seasonal flu diagnosis, right? But in 2019, going up to 2020, you had 38 million. So did the flu just disappear? Or were there a whole bunch of people that were just misdiagnosed because the money that was set aside for this whole coronavirus response was a hell of a lot more cheddar than it was if you got diagnosed with the seasonal flu, now wasn't it? The whole thing, in my opinion, was just nothing but a money laundering scam to Big Pharma. And here's this little idiot over here again, right? Ukrainian President Zelensky said the sudden death of Russian President Vladimir Putin would bring an end to the war between the two nations, right? So he's basically calling for somebody to assassinate Vladimir Putin. If you think that's going to de-escalate anything, well, I got a bridge to sell you, right? And you got this idiot down here talking about climate change, which is no different than the damn pharma thing we just went through, right? The whole Green New crap, right, is nothing more than another money laundering freaking operation by these people. They just come up with whatever excuse they can to money launder, and they're just inflating the petrodollar to the point where this pops. And when it pops, guess what? It's going to pop, and who do you think is going to be left holding the bag? You and me and everybody out here in the real world. So then, kind of going on with that notion, we've got Mr. Ron DeSantis down here, who's just took a page from the Democrat playbook and creates a public health integrity committee to debunk misinformation from the regime CDC, NIH, and FDA, right? He's basically calling on the Supreme Court of Florida to put together a panel to investigate the response and any adverse reactions that are happening from these vaccines. So you're going to have a whole lot of information coming at you here in the first part of the year as far as what really went down with that mess. And I hope that everybody pays attention to it. And like I say, everything, take in the information, make up your own mind. Don't be influenced, but you got to realize these are all politicians, even the ones you like, right? They're all politicians. They all have one job, and that's to manipulate the people, right? Don't let them manipulate you. Take in the information, process it, put it in a context, and make your own decisions. There's another one that is kind of well, here we go with the damn genocidal maniac down here. Fauci says we're still in the middle of a pandemic 3 years later. I don't know about you, but I've not heard of a pandemic that lasts for 3 years. When you walk outside your house, do you feel like you're still in the middle of a pandemic? I don't think most people do. But this guy, for some reason, keeps thinking that he wants to just keep pushing this crap on, and it's another 3-letter agency. This guy here is going to end up in a world of hurt, I have a feeling, in this next year. He's right on. He's got his head on the chopping block because he can't seem to just shut his mouth and go away. Another notable that I come across was this whole FTX scandal, right? That people have been talking about. This Bankman-Fried is this curly-haired, weird-looking kid, right? He basically went around and scammed a bunch of celebrities and stupid people out of a bunch of money, and then donated a bunch of it to political advocates right ahead of the election, right? Well, now this guy was just actually arrested yesterday because today he was supposed to testify before the House as far as what was going. So in my mind, that just tells me that the FBI jumped in front of it, because if it was just the Democrats that were money laundering, right, then AOC here wouldn't be calling for the guy to testify. Number one, they'd be trying to bury it. So why did the FBI step in? In my mind, it leads me to think that both political parties were probably on the take. And there's rumors out there to suggest as much, but we don't have any hard facts yet. And we may never get them now that the FBI stuck their nose on it. And everything they've touched in the last, I don't know how many years, they've screwed up royally. Got Joe Biden over here around a bunch of kids, which is always a fucking good thing to see. Let's see. I think that's about all I'm going to cover for today. Let's see here. Let me get back out full screen. But like I said, a lot of this stuff is it's like it's all happening at once. I mean, there's other crap I didn't cover with the border and stuff like that, right? You've got greaseball Gavin Newsom calling out the GOP for not wanting to do anything about immigration when they've been crying about the border every day, basically, for the last 6 years. But now all of a sudden, now all of a sudden it's an issue. Nobody could have saw that coming, right? But just the hypocrisy from that side of the political aisle is insanity, right? But in any case, I think that's about all I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to hit me up in the comments, and if you've got ideas of things you want me to cover, because I know a lot of these topics, there's a lot of people covering them. If there's things that aren't being covered that you'd like me to kind of dive into, hit me up in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share to a friend, and spread the word, and we'll just keep kind of trying to cover the basics. But my goal is, a lot of you guys have seen some of this stuff on the actual mainstream media. My goal is to actually go through it instead of cherry picking, and actually go through the whole thing, so you guys get the full context for those that aren't keen on social media or aren't actively tracking a lot of this stuff. That way, you guys can get all the information to kind of keep you up to date. And like I say, information is power. And when you're living in a time of information insanity, and like we've said before, propaganda from both sides, it's important to have the full context. And like I said, make up your own mind and not be led astray by selective editing and political narratives. Okay, that's really my goal with this whole channel is to kind of challenge the ideas of what we're being told with what we know and what we don't know, and trying to come to a rational place of understanding with what the hell's really going on, because it's all confusing and it's all distracting and it's all kinds of misdirection and misinformation, propaganda, lies, whatever you want to call it, trying to get everybody twisted up in their head and forcing people against each other. And that's only going to end up in one. That's only going to end up one way, and that's not where you want. Or that's not where we want the country to be. We got to figure a way around all that mess. And in the short term, I think is really the way to do it. It's about getting as many opinions and having a good enough conversation outside of that whole mechanism from people to people. I think we'll do a lot to alleviate that. But in the meantime, until I see you again, y'all stay safe, keep your head on the swivel, look out for each other, like I always say, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.